Hello Galactic family. This update from Kent Dunn and Gary Larrabee may be among the most bizarre accounts we will hear on the subject of world events. The details within this interview range from what we may consider normal to situations which sound as though they come right out of a page-turning science fiction novel. So far, most of us have kept up to date on the disclosures of Kent Dunn. These and numerous other disclosures have revealed the existence of the global Cabal, and how this group has been attempting to control the world for the better part of a century. According to the most recent disclosures, this Cabal is about to suffer total defeat. This group of criminals has been attacked on every front, having their underground bases assaulted and destroyed, their financial system all but completely eliminated, and their schemes of money laundering and pedophilia brought out into the light of day. There is little left for this Cabal to hope in with regard to their former plans of world domination, and this is a very good thing for the rest of us. Once again, this interview contains subjects which are particularly strange in nature. However, those of us who have frequented the latest whistleblower testimony on the secret space programs and black operations taking place both on and off planet, this will not be a very big stretch. Still, an open and discerning mind is necessary in order to fully benefit from these updates. With that, here are Kent Dunn and Gary Larrabee. Though I do not necessarily agree with any religious belief systems, I find this information to be particularly interesting, though some translation to secular terms may be helpful. As we consider these things, I think it is important to keep in mind that there is never any reason to be afraid of any particular situation that arises. As we may know, it is we as a collective who choose the experiences we have. According to recent intelligence, these massive scientific and political expeditions to the Antarctica and the Southern Hemisphere have held much more significance than mainstream sources have let on. These journeys to the South Pole have reportedly been for the sake of visiting the ancient ruins found there, and may have even involved certain Cabal members meeting with the ETs reported to reside underneath the Antarctic ice sheet. We may keep in mind that there are Cabal sources who have attempted to spin the story of disclosure in a fearful light, that of Buzz Aldrin and others. These sources are typically easy to spot as they tend to come from either mainstream media or from obscure sites which are either new or have not received much attention in the past. A word on responsibility. It is understandable that many of us frequent numerous sources in the area of ufology, and that many of these sources have various perspectives on the issues discussed in the above interview. Some of these sources respect the differences in perspective of the others, but some do not. Some sources may even choose to attack those who disagree with them for various reasons. Though these attacks do not typically come from positive places, they can help us learn about the situation as well as the sources that mount them. There are those within the field of ufology who have claimed that the mere mention of negativity of any kind represents an attempt at deception and/or the maintaining of secrecy. However, these sources typically make this assertion in complete ignorance of the truth of outer space. To my knowledge, no one on Earth knows the entire contents of the infinity of outer space. Consequently, it is illogical, irresponsible, and unscientific to jump to conclusions about any aspect of outer space or the different perspectives others may hold on the subject. A sensible person will know that truth must be established before any conclusion is drawn about a situation. To add, we do not know what is advantageous to secrecy until that truth is revealed. Secrecy is only present among those who avoid the truth. To find any individual who services secrecy, All one needs to do is to find sources, typically pseudo-skeptics, that deliberately avoid important topics or that dismiss certain subjects as nonsense before thoroughly evaluating them. Any of us is capable of such irresponsibility, which makes it important for each of us to ensure that our research and learning is more thoughtful than the average pseudo-skeptic. There have been a number of attempts to spin disclosure in a way that is advantageous to secrecy. However, as long as we think intelligently about the situation, considering all possibilities and not simply those we like, we will be able to discern the truth of the situation. Detail on the Antarctic situation. As stated, the information disclosed by Dunn is fairly strange, and it may take quite a while for those unfamiliar with these subjects to catch on to all of the implications they hold. As we digest this information, there are a number of credible sources which can help us learn from all that we uncover. One of the earliest sources that details these subjects is a series of books called The Law of One. Though this series was channeled in 1981 through 1983, it held within it advanced scientific data which was not available to anyone in the general public during the time these books were published. Once again, much of the science within the Law of One books was not even discovered at that time, and is only now being verified by state-of-the-art research conducted in astrophysics, quantum physics, and various other areas of research. Among the information within the Law of One, there is extensive information on ET life. According to this text, the Earth has been home to numerous ET races for millions of years, and these races have interacted with humankind for different periods throughout history. Many of these cases have been peaceful, while others have been difficult and sometimes hazardous. Overall, these ET interactions with humanity have been extremely impactful for millennia on end. The Law of One also refers to numerous ET races who live their lives under the Earth's surface in Earth. These groups vary in race, culture and ideology and have existed in Earth for millions of years, according to the texts and numerous other sources. Many of us are well familiarized with the whistleblower, Corey Goode, and his extensive disclosures on the subject of the secret space program. Goode has played a key role in educating humanity about the inner world of the SSP and how the various groups within these programs have built out the solar system with advanced bases and high technology. These bases range from orbital platforms above the Earth to bases on the Earth's surface and under the oceans. These bases are also reported to exist on other rocky planets and planetoids, below the surface of these planets, and even in adjacent solar systems, according to the Law of One text. Corey Goode has disclosed numerous details about the activities of ETs throughout history up until recent times. He has described how a number of these groups have joint bases on and below the surface of the Earth and how military interests have worked together with these ET groups for mutual benefit. These programs have been kept under the radar so that the general population would not realize what was taking place. As much information as Corey Goode has disclosed, the most interesting aspect of his testimony is that it directly corroborates with not only that if numerous other whistleblowers, but it lines up perfectly with the information from the Law of One. What was even more amazing to realize was that at the time of Goode's disclosures, he had never actually read any of the Law of One books. Most of us are familiar with the popular series, Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia.com. This has been a series which has disclosed the testimonies of numerous whistleblowers with extensive experience in black ops and secret government programs. Among these numerous whistleblowers, the testimony of Corey Goode has been key in giving insight as to where each of the various pieces of disclosure fit. One interesting corroboration between Dunn's intel and that of Corey Goode is the existence of secret bases hidden under the Antarctic continent. As both of these men reveal, Antarctica hides a number of secret military bases underneath the ice shelf. These bases were built by the Nazis during the early 19th century, and from that time, these people have been building advanced craft, weapons, transports and technology for their interplanetary missions. The Bakker-Huygens grid, each of the major intersection of the ley lines depicted in this image are particularly significant, in that major volcanic activity can be found in these locations around the globe. From the Hawaiian caldera to the Bermuda Triangle, the Yellowstone caldera, Kuril Lake in Russia and the Himalayas, this volcanic activity has been shown to have great impact on volcanism and geotectonics. The North and South Pole are no exception to this rule of volcanic activity, as indicated by the convergence of ley lines in both of these locations. In fact, according to reports on the Antarctic base, this geothermal activity is the likely reason why the natural igloo of the Antarctic was formed to begin with. According to Corey Goode, this Antarctic base was the location of a recent battle fought in the upper atmosphere some months ago. Evidence of this can also be seen in mainstream media. This battle was also confirmed by Dr. Pete Peterson, one of the most highly respected insiders in the UFO community. According to Peterson, the battle over Antarctica involved the Orion Group, also known as the Draco Reptilian Group. As the intel disclosed, a number of ships from this malevolent group were caught attempting to escape the planet while they still could. This was thought to be for the purpose of avoiding capture and trial for the crimes against humanity these beings have committed for centuries of time. These Orion ships attempted to escape the planet along with the upper ranks of the Cabal to a distant base in the solar system. However, their craft were attacked in the upper atmosphere, which forced them to retreat back underneath the Antarctic waters. Testimony from Dr. Pete Peterson. Most of those who have done their research are familiar with the disclosures of Dr. Pete Peterson. These represent some of the most amazing disclosures that have come forward in recent times. Though some of these disclosures can be difficult to piece together, they hold within them some of the most complex and most valuable pieces to the puzzle of disclosure. Below is a short excerpt from an article written by David Wilcock on the recent activity both above and below the surface of Antarctica. Massive exodus to Antarctica confirmed. Pete confirmed there was a shooting war over Antarctica, and that massive amounts of Cabal assets are being transferred there now. His briefing was that this transfer was occurring through many different C-5 Galaxy craft. Each plane holds 500,000 kilograms, almost a million pounds. Corey's data is that there are massive submarine tanker ships doing this transfer as well. It is huge in scope. There are tons of data points we can see in the visible world that show the Cabal is about to experience an epic defeat. That is why they are scrambling to move everything of value to a safe haven. The tankers are moving through vast undersea tunnels that lead straight to Antarctica and were perfected and built out by ancient ETs long ago. This next illustration is based on Corey's eyewitness testimony of seeing these massive undersea tunnels firsthand. The craft at the bottom are the gigantic supertankers that the Cabal is using to transfer all their assets to their last possible safety zone on Earth. It was actually Corey Goode who first disclosed the existence of the massive subarctic and suboceanic tunnel systems in such great detail. Dr. Peterson also offers an astonishing amount of detail to the account. Because of these whistleblowers, this information is now accepted as a major point of corroboration in current intel on the South Pole. This Antarctic base is reported to be the location of the joint bases which the former Nazis and the Draco-Reptilians used as their staging areas for operations in space. Such bases are also referenced in the Law of One text. Though some may blindly assume that any mention of negative ETs or negative intentions is disinformation, there are too many points of corroboration to responsibly dismiss. Commentary from Corey Good. As of late, Corey Good has revealed some fairly astounding information on Antarctica. To counter the intelligence he has revealed, a continuing campaign of trolling, defamation, and character attacks has been launched against him and other whistleblowers who attempt to disclose more than the partial disclosure narrative demands. Even still, Good and many other press forward to reveal as much intel as possible on the subject of the secret space programs. There have been numerous episodes of the Cosmic Disclosure series in which Good divulges detailed accounts of his experiences in on-Earth and off-planet. One of these episodes detailed a reconnaissance mission through the Antarctic base discussed by Kent Dunn. The conversion starts out with Corey conversing with a woman Curie who comes from a benevolent inner Earth group which Corey refers to as the Anshar. Corey: well, in the conversation I was talking about how things were rough between the SSP Alliance and I, and how I had been told that I didn't really have that much to offer them, that pretty much the only thing I had to offer them is to do odd jobs and to work for them. She said that will soon change because you're going to accompany us on a reconnaissance flight. And I was like, okay. And so we headed back to Earth. And we flew in the atmosphere, the same area where we punch out and punch in. And we head down at an incredible rate of speed. I could see a landmass area. I didn't know what it was because it was very cloudy, and it was dark. David HMM. Corey: and we shot down. And then right when we got to the surface of the water, I was thinking we're going to, PHST, punch through the water. We straighten out parallel with the water and increase speed. And all of a sudden, I start seeing, looks like ice cubes all next to each other everywhere, almost like you could walk on them. Tons of ice. And, David, you don't literally mean cubes. Just you're talking like icebergs. Corey: right. David: yeah. Corey: but we're passing by it real fast. David: okay. Corey: and she starts telling me, she said, the technology of this craft is incredibly intuitive. She said, do not get lost in the data. David's looking at Corey with an inquisitive expression. And, yeah, I had the same look on my face, I'm sure. Ha, ha. But she said this just before we started heading right towards a giant wall of ice, like an ice shelf. And we were heading directly towards it at speed. David: wow. Corey: and we passed right through what had to be some sort of hologram. And soon as we punched through, we saw an area carved out to where the largest ship that we have could go through and still have 2 or 3 times the height of the ship to the ceiling of this archway. But there was all of this, I guess, steam. It was real foggy. David: okay. Corey: at the entrance, this like fog was coming out. And we headed directly into this basically ice tube. And we were flying all around, and there'd be areas, all you'd see was ice, but then you would see, like, some little bit of rock outcroppings. And this was several miles that we went that way until everything started to then spread out and open up. And then we were flying over water. We're flying over water, under the ice. And then we came up upon this little island area that had a little outpost, looked like an industrial city, but not a city. It was small. And we're still going at a good clip. And all of a sudden, there's land below us. and you can't see it real well because it's very dark. And then we get to an area and you start seeing light, a lot of light, up ahead. And the light was penetrating and refracting and reflecting out of this giant ice dome above the ice. David HMM. Corey, and there were these pools of water that had steam coming out of them. And it was obviously very warm. There were trees that looked about this big. Corey shows a distance of about 4 inches with his fingers. That had pine needles on them. But it was so dark, I couldn't make them out real well. And we curve around this mountain, and there were these mountain peaks that came up out of the ground and disappeared into the ice, the ceiling of the ice. It was bizarre. And this was obviously, this ice pocket, or little igloo under the ice, was obviously created by the thermal activity. And this was in the northwest area of Antarctica. We then came upon the first really big industrial city that I saw under there. And it looked like it was, at one time, it was about the size. Corey shows a distance of about 10 inches between his hands. And then they had built it out. Corey spreads his hands as wide as he can. Over time, the disclosures on the Antarctic base have been extensive and detailed. Each time Good recounts these experiences, he is tested to see if he wavers at all from the write-up he completes before each interview. This process has been in place since the beginning of the Cosmic Disclosure series, and since that time, Corey Good has never wavered once. His testimony has been completely consistent each time he is interviewed. This shows that he believes that 100% of what he disclosed is true and accurate. To add, David Wilcock states that for years now, his own trusted insider sources have been giving him the exact same information which Good has disclosed in recent times. As an extra measure of corroboration, Wilcock keeps much of this information secret so that he can use it to vet out the authentic whistleblowers from the false ones who simply parrot his past work. As Wilcock shares, it did not take long for Corey Good to pass this test as well. Combined with the numerous corroborations from both ancient and recent sources including the Law of One and numerous other whistleblowers, it seems that the accounts from Corey Good, Dr. Pete Peterson, and others may tell us quite a bit about our current situation. Closing words. In recent times, testimonies such as these have been ridiculed mercilessly by internet trolls and those with no actual experience in space. It seems that any disclosure on the subject of ET life and the secret space program are met with such violent opposition that many of those with genuine experiences might be deterred from sharing them. Fortunately, this opposition has not stopped the truth from coming forward. The information within this update can be a lot to take in, and it is understandable that some have difficulty accepting it. As usual, the consideration of these events requires responsibility and discernment. Along with these qualities, we must remember that it is we who are guiding this situation to a positive outcome. It is we as a collective that are deciding what we want to experience. One of the main points stressed in the Cosmic Disclosure series has been the power of collective consciousness. It is very likely that this power has been used against us up until this point. However, at present we are awakening to our own ability to consciously use this power for the benefit of all. This collective power we possess needs no physical weapons. It needs no army or force to make its impact. All it requires is the choice of each of us to put our differences aside and unite for the sake of our planet and for the human race. To this end, everyone is invited to contribute their most positive and productive vision for a better world at this crucial moment